Welcome to a new edition of The Journey, and I'm very excited to welcome Wassim Saliba to share his journey. Wassim, hello.
Thanks for having me, Maddie. Thank you.
As so many people know in our region, you and your wife Marsha own and run Maison on the Causeway at Gateway Island. But let's start with your connection to the region. Now, you left Lebanon in 2001 and did you come straight to Albury Wodonga?
Yep, straight to Albury. At that time, I was 19, just finished school and contemplating about everything in life, basically. Sadly, I wanted to leave the country to further my study because we knew at the time there was not much opportunities for us in Lebanon, and I had two options: either come to Australia or go to Canada. Partly because I have two aunties, one that lives here and one that lives in Canada, and I applied to go to both countries, and I got accepted in no time to come to Australia via Charles Sturt University. I applied and, I wanted to come here. That was my preference, partly because it was easier way to stay here and apply for permanent residency after you finish studies. So at the time, that door was quite easy and open. Anyway, I got accepted in no time, and here I was. Within 3 or 4 months of me applying, I literally was on the plane and in Australia to further my study, and I came and actually enrolled myself in IT.
Yeah.
So an IT person at the time, and the rest is history. So never looked back. This became our home. So had a small attachment. Obviously, my auntie, they owned Cafe Victor back in the days. If you remember the old institution in Dean Street. That was pretty much what started me in the hospitality industry, as well as, our love to food and our restaurant that we had in Lebanon back in the family.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of the connection in terms of the food. But when I came here, I basically got stuck into my study. IT was my thing, and obviously, like as every student, when you were studying, you had other works to live from, and pretty much my finished my degree in 3.5 years, and in that 3.5 years, I've worked pretty much in few different places, food related. I got my connection to the industry from that, and this is where it all started for me.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to Lebanon and your childhood.
Sure.
So everybody knows you for your love of food.
Yes.
Was there a lot of beautiful food in the household as you were growing up? Whereabouts in Lebanon were you born?
My mum's side of the family were very much connected to food via the grandparents. They've had restaurants, so food was a thing in our life. So our everyday evolved around what's on the menu for the day. So grandma was always driving that. There was obviously the plat du jour, which is menu of the day, and that's pretty much dictated what we're having for the day and what everyone else was having. Our restaurant at the time operated slightly differently than what we have here.
So there was a restaurant that your family owned in
absolutely.
Lebanon.
Absolutely.
When you were okay.
And look, growing up, it's just like my family right now and my kids. We went to work. We went to help. Food was just a thing that we grew up around, and it was something that we just basically helped and did without the intention of doing what we've done today and where we are today. But it's something that it was embedded in us from day one.
Yeah, but clearly IT is very different from food. So you didn't at that stage, growing up and into your teens, think that food was going to be something that you'd work in? You were looking at more the IT side of things?
Definitely not. Look, at the time, my ambition in life was to be a sportsman. I loved sports. I was into my basketball. I tried the professional basketball in my late teens. I played for teams, and I was hoping to sort of continue in that little bit well, athleticism, but obviously height was an issue, and obviously the financial side of things. So parents couldn't, send me to bigger teams, so it was, okay, well, I had to do something else, and I had to do something that I kind of loved. And IT was a choice that I wanted to do. If I wasn't in Australia, I was going to be in Lebanon. But at the time, I was trying my luck. I got accepted in Australia very quickly. I couldn't imagine how quick I had to respond. And off I went.
Yeah. Did you know English when you...
Well, look, we knew a little bit of English. So when I got accepted, I pretty much went and enrolled myself in an English course to, build some language behind the scene and get everything I could. So I didn't muck around, and I did, whatever time I had. And when I got to Australia, I did another 3-month intensive in Wagga. That was a course attached to the university that they offered to international students at the time.
Yeah.
So I lived in Wagga for 3 months, and to build on that language. And when you're 19, you learn things quicker, and you've got the ability to concentrate on something that's going to obviously help you in life. And look, I learned a lot, obviously, when the course started. I had a lot of difficulties listening to lectures, especially Aussie lectures that spoke Australian in the big theatre. I did pretty much sometimes wonder why I go to a lecture, because I had no understanding of what they were talking about. So I struggled in some subjects where there was a lot of theories and a lot of talking, because I had to go back and do my own study and try to decipher what had just happened in that lecture. And look, studying was pretty much a breeze for me in some ways. I loved the science subjects and obviously the programming subjects and the subjects that didn't have a lot of theories, because I obviously struggled in some ways with the big essays and whatnot, but I got through them. I put my mind into them, and I made sure that I passed 99% of my subjects, and I did. It was a 3 years course. I did an extra degree with TAFE at the time, so that gave me a bachelor degree in IT from University of Charles Sturt, and a Cisco course that I did at the same time with TAFE, and that gave me a little extra tick.
All right. Now, before we move on to what you did immediately after your study,
yep.
You're well known for the partnership with Marsha and La Maison. So I want to just tap into the relationship, if I could. So where did you meet Marsha? Was it here or was it in Lebanon?
No, we met in Australia. We met at Charles Sturt. So Marcia came in 2002 as a student as well. So her family, or her parents and Marcia, migrated to Australia from the Seychelles. So Seychelles is just a little island in the Indian Ocean, nearby Mauritius. If people know Mauritius a bit more, Seychelles is a neighbour of that island. So they came as a migrant to Australia, and she was a student of speech pathologist. So she came as an international student. Obviously, she was a lot more versed in English than me, and so she's straight into the subject, and we met in the international student club that Charles Sturt had at the time, and look, more or less it was a love at first sight, and for both of us it was first love in our life, and hopefully the last one.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a lovely story. I love that. So you finished your study. You've got, therefore, IT background now and credentials. What happened then?
So I pretty much finished my degree, and I had a job lined up, believe it or not, even before I finished. Through my connection to the people of Albury and working in the industry of food at night, I obviously met a lot of people, and I connected with a lot of people. And as I do, I know half the town. Everybody that comes to my restaurant, we build a nice connection somehow. Anyway, and it was no different at the time. And I was this man. He kind of kept an eye on me and how I was progressing and everything. So he was visiting Cafe Victor once a month or whatnot. And I was telling him that I was looking for a job in IT once I finished my degree in a few weeks, and pretty much he lined up that job for me through a friend of mine, Adrian Sandrell. At the time, he was a contractor at the paper mill. If you remember Norskis Kog, or Norskis Kog, at the time, back in 2004, was in its heyday. It was in full operation, and there was big projects happening. So I got the job pretty much. I got contacted. My number got passed on, and I got offered an IT job, and pretty much started. Day one, I finished university, and loved the job, loved the the opportunity. They created a lot of. It opened extra doors for me, but what I hated about it was sitting behind a screen in your own. On your own, and pretty much talking to people via emails and phones and whatnot. I did it for about 2.5 years, and I got to a stage where this was just getting a little bit how to say it. Look, I wasn't enjoying it, but it's certainly it gave me this step up to start looking into other opportunities. And basically my other opportunity was to get into food again. I missed the food, I missed the connection with the people, and looked for every opportunity that was on offer at the time. And to today, I still remember the line ad. Once I was looking in the paper to see what's on offer, and who's selling and who's wanting to get out of the industry, and I found this line ad. It said cafe for sale, genuine inquiries only, ring this number. And I remember ringing it on a Monday back in 2007, around the early June, and I inquired, and the lady wouldn't tell me where the cafe was, and she said, "Oh well, I don't want tire kickers and whatnot." I said, "Look, I'm fairly versed in the industry, and I my family owned Cafe Victor, and I sort of she trusted me at the time, and she told me where this cafe was. And literally that afternoon I went there and checked it out, and I didn't know where it was initially. I didn't know where the Causeway was, because I was more or less Albury, and anyway, so found it, knew where I was going, and again fell in love in it at first sight. And literally within 3 weeks, I've resigned from the paper mill, and I bought this cafe.
But all right, so 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But what about Marsha? So had she gotten into speech pathology?
Yes.
And did you have to convince Marsha to do it? Like, what was the story there?
She could see that the struggle I was going through in terms of the job that I was doing at the paper mill. And she knew I wasn't enjoying it, and it got to a stage just like sometimes I wish the morning doesn't come up so I don't have to get to work, and so she knew that changes needed to happen, and whether a cafe was the option. We've discussed it quite a bit, and at the time, the ideal situation was a cafe, daytime, 5 days a week, and to keep it in that job feel type setup. And so this is how we've started it. And at the time, actually, Marcia was pregnant with our first, so it was a bit of a big gutsy move to buy a cafe, first baby on the way, and to give up birth jobs. Initially, Marcia was not to give up her job, but to help out when we can. And like you do, every business, every family, every startup job, you do what you can, and to get it off the ground. And we pretty much did all that. And we didn't know the extent of the business, how far it was going to go. We've employed 2 people at the time. There was only 3 to 4 of us working in that place, and every day we grew one bit to the stage that at one stage we were employing over 30 people.
Yeah, it's incredible, and what a success story. And we know how volatile the industry can be, especially around things like COVID and the like. But in the early days especially, how difficult was it to build it up? And did you have a clear philosophy about what it was going to be very early on?
Not really. Like, we certainly had the idea that we need to contain it and keep it, working for us, not us working for it. But very quickly that formula got tossed around, and we knew the potential was huge in that place. And we did the right thing in terms of provide the food and the service, and the demand was there, and it outgrew us very quickly. And knowing that I had a little bit of background in the industry, especially working in Albury Wodonga, so people followed us from, when they found out we were there, they followed us, and very much, we saw the potential. And what was a little cafe at the time was just a small part of the restaurant. We slowly saw the potential, and we grew the back part, and then we added more buildings. So the building next door wasn't part of the restaurant. It was another business that vacated. And when it vacated, we took the risk and say, well, what we got to lose? We'll try it for a year and then see what happens. We go in, and I was like, that was the best thing we did. And we went into it and basically became part of the restaurant. And then we grew the outside. We added the big pergola outside. We added the cottages. So we go as far as the 2 cottages behind. And the demand is always there. And it had to get to a stage where, okay, well, we can't do any further. This is what we need to stop it. And because it pretty much took over our life, and we got, after 10 years, we hit a bit of a roadblock. We were doing breakfast, lunch and dinner 6 days a week, and family time got a bit less and less, and we had to make some decisions, hard decisions then, and 3 kids by then. And we had to make some hard decisions, and that's when we decided to cull down a day, which was a Sunday, and it gave us 2 days on the weekend, and basically stopped breakfast. So we restricted the hours. We had to sadly lose some staff, from 33 staff down to like 24, 25, which was a great thing. And the bottom line didn't change, believe it or not. You don't have to go big for you to make big money, or it shows you that, sometimes focus on the small things and make them work better, and you'll have a great return. And this is my philosophy. You learn these things, when you're ambitious and you want to do bigger stuff and you want to go everywhere and you have 3-4 businesses. Well, it's not necessarily healthier for you, as we found out. And we certainly focused on the small things and made them work for us, and it's probably the best thing we've done in that business ever since.
Yeah. I mean, it has become somewhat of an institution here in the region. Well, why do you think you've made it such a success, and what separates the way that you do business compared to, just generalising, compared to the way a lot of places do?
Look, I don't like bragging about ourselves, and we provided, at the end of the day, honest service. We provided genuine food. We weren't there to make quick money. We were there for the long term. And that's how you build every business. Every business should be based on that formula. If you're honest, if you provide fair price and fair value to what you're charging, I think at the end of the day, that's the key success to every business. And as I said, we weren't interested in making the big dollars the first day. And look, we still work hard. I still I love my work, and I love the people that come through the door. We acknowledge everybody that comes in the door, and you want it to feel that, okay, well, this isn't just about taking that money out of your wallet. It's about providing the experience. It's about connecting with the people, because at the end of the day, people become your family very quickly, and where else are they going to go to? So when you say an institution, well, I call it more of a big family. For us, it's the La Maison family. That's every time you have an occasion in your house, where do we go? They come to us. Every time there's a birthday, there's a wedding, there's a funeral, there's whatever, there's only one place. So for us, that's what we're proud to provide.
Here's probably a difficult question for you to answer, but as we know, there are two major components of running a restaurant, food and the service. What's more important?
Look, it's they go hand in hand. I tell people, there's, McDonald's provide good service, and they provide. I mean, I'm probably not a good example. Sorry. At the end of the day, look, it's hand in hand. It's 50-50. You miss the mark. People forgive you when the food is good. But if you're genuine about it, you're never going to lose that customer.
Yeah.
But if you provide shit service and again, forget it. And the same thing, there's too many good opportunities out there, too many good food providers out there. If you can't provide the quality, well, again, so it needs to be 50-50.
Yeah. How much time and effort do you spend trying to look outwards at what you're doing to kind of maintain the standard? Like, is that a real emphasis?
Zero time. I basically I tell my staff, I don't care how many restaurants opens up around us, and I don't care what other people are doing. I literally don't have an interest outside what I do, and I know that at the end of the day, if I do what I do to the best of our abilities, and we provide equal, fair product at a fair price, there's no reason why we shouldn't have a business. And I don't want to be competitive. I don't want to be. I don't look at what other places are charging. I charge whatever is fair and whatever I think is right. And this is how I drive my business. And I tell my staff, it's not about KPIs, it's not about numbers. The bottom line in our business and how I operate this business, it's about providing that experience and make sure that every customer that walk in the door is greeted properly, and when they leave, they're happy. And that alone is going to maintain your business at the level it should be.
Yeah. Do you draw inspiration from any one or any particular businesses, either now or in the past?
Look, certainly, you try to innovate yourself a little bit in doing certain things a bit differently, and you're always on the lookout for quirkiness and keeping yourself a little bit fresh in some ways, but certainly not anything in particular, no. So we and look, I don't say I'm a perfect business operator, so I'm always looking for that little bit of help and boost in terms of how I do things. Nothing in particular, but all levels and anything that there's room for improvement every day. I don't say we're perfect today and no more for every day. Like I spent just basically my whole day off yesterday at work doing some work and improvement in the bar. My wife rings me and tells me, like, you said you were going for 2 or 3 hours, and 7 o'clock at night we finished because we run into so many different things that we had to do extra. So there's always, fixing and improving to do.
Yeah. And look, before we move on,
Yep.
the food itself, where do you draw the inspiration for
Yep.
the food? How much time do you spend researching different food? Like, I mean, how talk to me about the food aspect of it.
Look, at the moment, so the food component for me personally is I'll leave it with the hand of our chef that's been with us for 15 years now. Our head chef Stacey and her crew now, they take the lead in that. I'm more than happy to put my 5 cent worth in that regard.
Taste test, I would
Absolutely,
imagine.
but when I initially started that business, I was the core decider in lots of it and how we drove that place. And to have Stacey on board back in the days, and not knowing where she's going to end up. So obviously along the journey, we've developed this menu and this concept of La Maison together, and now sort of she's more than capable. But certainly, look, we wanted to keep it fresh and clean and very much attached a little bit to our heritage in terms of Middle Eastern. So you always find a few things that's very Middle Eastern on the menu, and we tweak some of the flavors to make them Middle Eastern, even though they might not be authentic, fully Middle Eastern. So there's always the elements to it, and having good staff is a big key in that regard, and I leave it to them in some ways.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from the restaurant just for a tick, because
Yep.
I really want to talk about your interaction with the community, your relationship with the community, and what that has kind of brought about in your life. So obviously you fell in love with the region pretty early on, and you haven't moved away, which is wonderful. What do you love about our region and the people?
Look, this is home for me, obviously, and certainly from day one, I've connected very quickly to the people. Food is always a good way to connect to somebody. You very much, you win them or you lose them, and if you provide that, there's a saying, is the good key for a good relationship is good food or something like that. So we've always had that plus in our life. So we got connected very quickly, and very much from day one I considered this home, because where else you want to be in than Albury Wodonga. It's we've got everything here. The people are awesome, obviously, and pretty much you make it work. And I'm proud to be an Alburyan, if you want to call me Albury Wodonga, Albury Wodongian, whatever you want to call us. But certainly, I wouldn't change it for the world. I've been around Australia, and there's lots of nice places around, but I'm not sure if I want to be anywhere else, to be honest.
Yeah.
And for me, and I'm part of this community now. And obviously the success that I have is based on the support that I have to my business, to my connection where I am, and certainly that's a big thing. And I'm proud to be belonging to this region, and certainly I've got no other places to call home.
Now, before we move on to something extraordinary that you've done for the community as well, a real philanthropic thing that you've done. I do want to touch on COVID first, though, because obviously your industry was to an extent decimated during the COVID years, and us especially being Albury and Wodonga made it even harder. You're on the causeway on the Wodonga side, technically, right? So, obviously you had people not being able to get from one side to the other, and all of that nonsense thrown in there as well. How tough were the COVID years?
Look, there was a lot of unknown and at the start, and just like everyone else, we all went with the ride, and we basically like, what the hell, like why is this happening? And we lived. The history lived itself again. That wasn't always a border. Once upon a time, back in the days when it was two different states. And we had to live it again. And look, you know what? I'm grateful to be able to see that, at least in our lifetime. The experience was intense, and it was. Don't think it was great for a lot of people, but in some way, and I, some way I did see the positive out of it. It actually, and doing what we did in terms of the. Turning the business around to suit the conditions, it shows you that if you're well connected with your community and everybody rallies behind you, everybody tells you, I'm here, I want to see you survive this madness, and I want to be able to come to a restaurant when this is all finished. So the support we had was intense, and it was awesome to see. We didn't envisage to go through that phase the way we did. We actually, I shouldn't say this, but we had a at the end, or sort of past that early stage, we had an awesome experience, because we connected even further with the people. Business survived. We did okay. I can't say business thrived, but we tried something different. People rallied behind us, and that was a plus. I can't say that was a bad experience. And to be honest, at the time we tried different lifestyle. We work in daytime. We never had to work nighttime. I actually enjoyed that part of it. You wouldn't believe it. Like, if I tell people I actually enjoyed having lockdown. It's bizarre. It's bad to say, because in our lifestyle, like, you're working day and night, and you're working every other day that everybody's holidaying. But we opened 5 days, 8 to 4. I was home every night with my family. Business was running. Everyone was fine. It's bizarre to say that, but it impacted us in some ways positively, and created that connection, a further connection with our customers.
All right, so everything's going well. We passed COVID. You lead a very busy life. You've got 3 kids. You're running the beautiful restaurant La Maison. What made you decide to fly over to Perth, then get on a push bike with no help or support, just with a mate, and then ride across the Nullarbor on your own?
If you tell me this 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago, or any time in the previous, I would say no way on earth I was going to be able to even think about that. But like, we all mature up in life, and we get to certain levels, and you get an opportunity that put in front of you like this. And I initially laughed at it, and I said the same thing.
It was your friend's idea.
It was my friend's idea.
What's his name?
Gabe, or Gabo Holmick. And I pretty much said the same thing. What possesses you to do something stupid? Or everyone else says the same thing. And but after a couple of days of me realizing that, okay, there's an opportunity here, and I don't know if he will want me to come with him, but I'll ask him. And basically at the time he said, well, make sure your wife is happy with it, and but we have to train. And literally, I kind of slipped the idea to my wife. I knew what she was going to say. But I kind of knew, like, well, you're gonna leave me for 6 weeks with everything, and it's like, I kind of tried to smooth it over at this time.
Could you cycle before? This isn't a motorbike. This is a push bike that you rode across the Nullarbor Plain.
Yeah. Well, look, in my previous life, I did a bit of cycling.
Okay.
Back in the days before I came to Australia, cycling was part of my daily routine. But that's 20 odd years ago, and I'd cycle the odd times here and there. But from when I committed to the idea in my head, okay, well, I need to train for it. So we kind of targeted the time of the year that we need to do this ride, which was early May, and that was around Christmas. And I said, okay, well, we're training every day where we can. So literally started as a loop of 5 kilometers around Gateway Island. So we did that a few times, and then very slowly we grew it 10, 15 to almost 120 Ks back. We went all the way to Yak and back.
Yeah.
Via the back roads of Barney and whatnot. So that was our training almost every day. It would be 5 to 6 days a week that we trained. And literally we hit the target we wanted in terms of fitness. And just before we embarked on that journey, about 3 weeks, that's when I asked Carevan, guys, I'm doing this massive ride with Gabe. Would you like us to do a bit of charity? And that's how we connected.
Yeah.
And
so Carevan, for those that may not know, they help out people who are doing it tough and potentially homeless or just vulnerable, doing it tough members of our community, and they help out with meals and the like, and they do a terrific job. John Brabant from Carevan just is a great guy. So you contacted to John and the team there?
Yeah, exactly. And I had an admiration to John, and I've known Carevan from day one when he started it and founded it, and it was always on my mind that I wanted to do something for these guys and something major, and that was the perfect marriage, if you want to say, for fundraising. And literally 3 weeks before we left to Perth, we scrambled a few ideas together and who's doing what, and we knew we were going to be cycling, and basically the rest was history. So we did things on the go, social media, raised funds. We did a couple of announcements before we left, and basically my connection to the community from the restaurant has helped a lot in the success that we've had on this journey, and it shows you that when you're well connected, you got no issues. Whatever you're doing, everybody will rally behind you.
Well, let's go straight to the total before we go back to some of the experiences you had on the road. How much have you raised so far?
We're just over 60.
Incredible.
Yes. Yeah. Look, we
$60,000.
$60,000 from basically, literally 10-minute planning in terms of putting the fundraising ideas together and putting it out there, and get the community.
Amazing, mate.
So
honestly,
it was mind blowing. We raised more money, believe it or not, when I landed back in Albury. At the time, GoFundMe was sitting around that 24 grand when I landed back, and it just the money poured in that 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The leading to the wrap up, and when we wrapped it up on the Sunday 3 weeks ago, the finale, the tally just kept growing to about 60 grand.
So you rode from Perth.
Yes.
You rode all the way across the Nullarbor. Meanwhile, Gabe.
Yes.
Got sick, got COVID. So I talked to you when you were just about at the end of the Nullarbor, and you'd actually had to leave him. He was a couple of days behind. So you were towing your gear on the back of this push bike. Trucks were shooting past you, obviously, as well. What was now you've done it. What was the experience like? How would you explain it?
I tell everybody that's a bike enthusiast and or have a weird idea about the Nullarbor, they should try this, because this was an awesome experience. I'm I'm not an athlete or anything like that, but I put my mind into it, and I trained for it. So I had some base level of fitness that I could use for this journey, and you build more, fitness as you go. But the main thing is to keep focused, and sadly, part of the reason why we split up at the time is that Gabe got sick, and he got a bit sluggish, and I was pretty much focused on this journey for what it was for the fundraising, and I had to excuse myself from Gabe and say, look, Gabe, that was it's a hard decision at the time, and I've made the promise to him that we come together, we'll leave together unless something extraordinary happened. And that was that time, and it was like, Gabe, I need to keep this charity going. I'm on limited time frame. I need to finish it and get to somewhere close to the end. And we split up and kept going on my own. The safety part of the journey was there was no safety issues, so there was no these truck ideas, and people say, are you sure you're doing this? Look, the roads were nice and wide. The trucks are aware of you. If you acknowledge them, they talk between them. I made sure I waved to every truck, and and they respect you. You respect them, and that was like everything else. It's probably safer riding on the Nullarbor than riding in some of our streets
on the causeway.
It's sad to say that.
It's
the whole complexity of it is just the length, and the if you're doing it self-supported, you just need to plan, and you need to know what you're doing in terms of food and drinks and how much to carry.
I asked you a couple of weeks back after you'd finished, has that kind of satisfied the urge to go and challenge yourself? And you said, no way, I'm ready for another one. So is that still the case? You're going to challenge yourself again? What are you going to do?
Look, I mean, there's been a few ideas around, and certainly there hasn't been a fixed project just yet, but certainly I'm addicted. I'm already looking into getting a better bike and better gears, and if we are doing a long journey like that, so you avoid breakage and breakdowns and whatnot. But certainly, and hopefully take a couple of other people with me. Like, I've got a son that's super interested now, and I'm hoping to actually, get some training happening with him, we can actually. He can come along, and whoever wants to come.
Marsha's okay with your newfound desire to challenge?
Well, look, at the end of the day, look, she's okay with anything that's reasonable, and
it was for such a great cause as well. That
it is, and that's you can't hide the fact that we. In on a personal level as well, like it was successful for the community, but I see the benefit for me, me having that break from the whole world, and as bad as it sounds, like even being away from the family was great, and having that me time. I mean, I've talked to them every day and made sure that we communicated.
Yes.
But it's an essential part of living, and I think to have that
sense of achievement must be amazing.
Look, and it's definitely it's up there, and it's doable. I can't say I did the impossible.
Most people would think that. Like I think that. When I look at it, I go, that is essentially impossible. Like, what you've done is such an extraordinary thing, and to ride across the Nullarbor on a bike, push bike, on your own with no support, I mean, it's just extraordinary. And to raise that much money as well is sensational. But Wassim, our time is almost over. Ooh. It's been a wonderful chat. I've really enjoyed finding out all about you and your journey. Just very quickly, let's finish up with some quick fire questions if we can. If you're able to invite 3 people to your dinner party at La Maison, who would they be and why? They can be alive or dead.
Ooh, okay. Look, my wife has to be one. I don't invite her too many dinners. Oh, wow. Okay. Look, Gabe, because he's impacted a little bit on where I am in life at the moment. And, I don't know, Maddie, maybe. You can voice my, you can voice my ideas. I'm pretty bad at, communicating sometimes, and sometimes it's handy having somebody
I'll be
like
there
yourself.
for you.
Awesome.
All right, now here's another quick one. Now this is very interesting considering your line of business. Sweet or savoury?
Savoury. Sadly, savoury, but I tell you what, sweet does kill me because I go off it for a long time, but then when I find it,
yeah,
I was like, oh my God, what did I just do?
I know exactly what you mean. Wassim Saliba, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. It's been wonderful so far. I can't wait to see what you're going to get up to next, especially when it comes to the challenge as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maddie. It's always good to have you, and thanks for having me because this is part of how this challenge is successful by putting it out there. And thanks for sharing my story.
Oh, no worries, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.